He didn't talk. He didn't smile. He damn sure didn't miss. If Charles Chuckie Nicoletti was headed your way, the next thing you heard might be, well, that's the last thing you heard. To the public, he barely existed, just a quiet guy with dark suits and darker eyes. But inside the Chicago outfit, he was fear incarnate, a ghost with a gun, a man who made death look easy. Welcome back to James on the Mob. I'm James Jenkins, host and narrator. In today's episode, we shine the spotlight on one of the most feared triggermen in organized crime history, Charles Nicoletti, the outfit's Iceman. We'll peel back the layers of this cold, methodical enforcer from his early days in the 42 Street Gang to his deadly rise through the outfit ranks under Sam Giancana, and the whispers that he was tied to one of the most controversial assassinations in American history. Charles Nicoletti's life of crime did not begin with a calculated entry into a criminal enterprise, but with a traumatic act of violence at the tender age of 12. Born in Chicago on December 3, 1916, to Philip Nicoletti and Grace Alessi, Italian immigrants from Sicily, he was the second of two sons and was raised in the city's near west side. The foundational event of his life, a single moment that appeared to irrevocably alter his trajectory, occurred on February 25, 1929. On that night, his father, Philip, who was described as a drunkard, engaged in a violent altercation with young Charles, which began with a spanking and escalated to a beating, choking, and finally a pursuit with a knife. Cornered and pursued by his armed father, the 12-year-old Charles fled into a bedroom where a gun was kept in a bureau drawer. In what was later deemed an act of self-defense, Charles shot his father 4 times, killing him. The incident was not deemed a crime. 2 days later, a Cook County coroner's jury exonerated the boy with a legal decision recorded as a coroner's verdict only. The official determination characterized the event as an intentional manslaughter, with the motive being self-defense against a drunken father who was threatening with intent to kill his son. The outcome was a judicial commendation of the boy's actions. This sequence of events appears to have served as a critical turning point that normalized violence for Nicoletti at an exceptionally young age. The trauma of killing his own father, even under the legal shield of self-defense, was compounded by his subsequent abandonment of a traditional life path. Following the incident, Nicoletti dropped out of school in the 8th grade. Without the structure of education or conventional social work, organized crime provided a new framework and a new family where his demonstrated capacity for violence was not a liability, but a valued asset. The path from a violent home life to professional violence was, in this case, direct and immediate. With his formal education terminated, Charles Nicoletti found a new form of schooling on the streets of Chicago. He quickly became associated with the 42 Gang. This youth gang was more than a mere criminal outfit. It was a proving ground and a key recruiting pipeline for the Chicago outfit. This association placed him in direct contact with a group of individuals who would become the next generation of leadership in Chicago's organized crime scene. His contemporaries in the 42 Gang included a roster of future outfit heavyweights: Sam Teets, I Bust You in Your Teets Battaglia, William Willie Potatoes Dodano, Mad Sam DeStefano, and most significantly, Sam Giancana. This early network of relationships was instrumental in Nicoletti's rapid ascent and established the foundation for his future role as a trusted enforcer and lieutenant. What Nicoletti did between his teenage years with the 42 Gang and the early 1940s is less documented. Sources don't paint a clear picture of his footsteps, but we can reasonably infer that he honed loyalty, muscle, and gained reputation, and dealt in small-time extortions, rough jobs, and alliances that built trust in the shadows. And by the late 1940s, Nicoletti had transitioned from his youth gang roots to a full-fledged role as a hitman for the Chicago outfit, working as part of Sam Giancana's crew. A photograph from around 1945 identified him as a reputed crime syndicate chief, indicating his growing reputation and stature within the organization during this period. In the late 1940s, Giancana's crew, which included Nicoletti, was tasked with a violent and profitable mission: taking over the city's lucrative policy racket from its existing operators, many of whom were African-American gambling bosses. This violent consolidation campaign was a major operation for the outfit, generating millions of dollars a year. As part of this takeover, Giancana's crew is believed to have been responsible for pressuring gambling boss Eddie Jones to leave the country and for the murder of gambling boss Theodore Teddy Rowe on August 4, 1952. These acts of intimidation and murder, while attributed to Giancana's crew in general, were the kind of work that earned Nicoletti his reputation as a ruthless killer. It is alleged that throughout his career, Nicoletti was involved in as many as 20 mob hits. By the late 1950s, Charles Nicoletti had established himself as one of the most feared and respected triggermen in Chicago's criminal underworld. His reputation for lethal efficiency was often intertwined with that of his partner, Felix Milwaukee Phil Alderisio. The two were a formidable team, a partnership that drew the intense attention of both Chicago police and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Nicoletti's professional persona was encapsulated in his chilling nickname, Chuckie the Typewriter. A mob nickname is rarely an idle moniker. It is often a grim, symbolic representation of a person's defining characteristics and reputation. The name typewriter likely referred not to a literal piece of office equipment, but to the staccato, rapid-fire sound of a submachine gun, a weapon that he was known to use with deadly precision. It was a grim, poetic descriptor for his high kill count and his reputation as a ruthless, efficient, and methodical killer. This designation solidified his identity as a man whose very name was synonymous with violence and death. A memorable anecdote highlights his partnership with Felix Milwaukee Phil Alderisio, a subject whom I shall cover soon as a follow-up, so stay tuned. And their innovative, although crude methods. On one occasion, the two men were discovered by police sitting on the floor of a car that reporters later dubbed the Hitmobile. The vehicle was specially modified with hidden compartments to store firearms, and equipped with switches to turn off the lights at strategic moments. And when questioned by police, their nonchalant response was they were simply waiting for a friend. This incident illustrates the cold professional demeanor that was characteristic of their work. The depth of Nicoletti's brutality was laid bare in the 1962 kidnapping and torture of Billy McCarthy and his accomplice, Jimmy Miraglia. The two thugs had killed two outfit associates and an innocent waitress in an area known as Elmwood Park, an area in which many outfit members lived and therefore an area deemed a no-kill zone. Nicoletti, along with Alderisio and Tony the Ant Spilatro, abducted McCarthy and began a systematic torture to force McCarthy to reveal his accomplice's name. During the interrogation, Spilatro placed McCarthy's head in an industrial vice and began to tighten it. The gruesome session culminated when McCarthy's eye popped completely out of its socket. At this point, the terrified McCarthy revealed his accomplice's name, and both men were subsequently killed and their bodies left in the back of a car trunk on Chicago's South Side. The chilling nature of this event was later recounted by Spilatro to his friend, Frank Culata, who recalled Spilatro's impression of Nicoletti's reaction. "Boy, this Nicoletti is a heartless guy. He was eating pasta when Billy's eye was popped out." This morbid anecdote paints a vivid picture of Nicoletti's psychological detachment, a characteristic essential for his role as a professional killer. This scene, minus the feasting on the pasta, was portrayed in the 1996 movie Casino. Charles Nicoletti was not just a hitman, he was also a trusted and high-ranking member of the Chicago outfit, serving as a one-time right-hand man to boss Sam Giancana. He was in fact once considered a potential successor to the top spot in the organization. While his career was defined by his role as a feared enforcer and associate of mob boss Sam Giancana, declassified federal documents from 1973 reveal a significant shift in his status. This report analyzes two key FBI memoranda from that year, which collectively paint a picture of Nicoletti as a high-ranking top-tier leader who had ascended to a position of immense power within the criminal organization. The document confirms his role in the outfit's new administration and his continued high-level involvement in major criminal activities, including narcotics. Another 1973 declassified FBI document indicates that Charles Nicoletti's influence within the Chicago outfit had reached its zenith. A confidential informant citing outfit associate Gus Alex stated that with the recent deaths of other mob leaders, Joseph Iupa and Charles Nicoletti were now pretty much in charge of mob activities in Chicago. The same source identified Joseph Iupa as the new leader operating directly under the authority of Tony Accardo. This information positioned Nicoletti as a member of a new two-person leadership panel, placing him at the highest echelons of the organization's administration. Nicoletti's influence and reputation extended beyond the Chicago criminal underworld to the clandestine operations of the federal government. According to sources cited in an FBI document, Nicoletti was a key figure in a plot involving the Central Intelligence Agency and the crime syndicate to assassinate Cuban President Fidel Castro. He was reportedly responsible for drawing up the CIA-ordered plans for the assassination. And the conspiratorial thread surrounding Nicoletti's career extend to one of the most significant and controversial events in American history, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. While never substantiated by official investigations, multiple sources have implicated Nicoletti in the plot. In 2010, an article published in Playboy magazine by author Hillel Levin reignited these allegations. These claims originated from James Earl Files, an inmate within the Illinois Department of Corrections, who confessed to a private investigator. Files, who was in the prison for attempted murder, implicated Nicoletti along with fellow mobsters Johnny Roselli and Sam Giancana in the assassination. Although these claims remain within the realm of a conspiracy theory, they nonetheless link Nicoletti to a powerful and widely debated narrative of the mob and the government. Me personally, I think that this is talk from a guy looking for his 15 minutes of fame. Charles Nicoletti's life concluded with the same abrupt violence that had initiated his criminal path. On March 29, 1977, at the age of 60, he was shot 3 times in the back of his head. The murder occurred while he was in his Oldsmobile, which was parked outside the Golden Horn restaurant in suburban North Lake, Illinois. He was discovered in his car and transported to the North Lake Community Hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries 6 to 7 hours later. Initial press reports incorrectly suggested his car was firebombed. In reality, the car's engine had been left running and subsequently overheated, leading to a fire that consumed the vehicle. The method of his death, 3 shots to the back of the head, was a signature mob hit, not a spontaneous act of violence. The precision and calculation of the act carried out in a public restaurant parking lot signified that the hit was a professional high-level execution. This suggests that his death was not random but a targeted act to permanently silence a perceived liability or rival. According to former FBI agent William F. Romer, rumors began to circulate that Nicoletti had begun talking to authorities, but these rumors were never substantiated. But in the murky world of the mob, rumors can often kill. The prime suspect in Nicoletti's assassination is fellow Chicago mob assassin Harry Ailman, who was, ironically, in the next generation of Chicago outfit killers. So goes the story of Charles the typewriter Nicoletti. Nicoletti was a figure forged by violence from his earliest days. His life was a journey from a traumatized child who was forced to defend himself to a professional killer who became one of the most feared enforcers in the history of the Chicago outfit. His career was a tapestry of documented brutality, innovative criminal methods, and a rise to the highest echelon of organized crime. His story remains a testament to a brutal life that came to a brutal and ultimately unresolved end, leaving behind a legacy of unanswered questions. And in the comments below, let me know your thoughts on Charles Nicoletti. Do you think he was involved in the JFK assassination? I'm James Jenkins. If you enjoyed this episode, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe, and be on the lookout for the next episode of James on the Mob. And remember, life is short, so don't whack it off. See yous.